All right, thank you everyone for coming to the session for science. I know there's a lot of different kinds of science, and all of the different specific science courses kind of like require very different skill sets. So today's session is going to be kind of broad, but hopefully take something away from it. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask them as well. Or we can also meet separately about that. I'm always happy to do that with teachers too. So yeah. Um, What we'll cover today are first, I'll cover some icebreaking news, AI news worth discussing, as always, and then I'll cover some features in Flint that might be useful to science teachers, just to give everyone a refresher of the things that Flint provides and the things that you can leverage in any activities or chats that you're having with Flint. And then I'll walk through a couple activity examples. I also found like a lot of really good science uh, templates in the public library. So that could also be useful and like a source of inspiration for everyone. And then finally, we'll end with a feedback session. I know I reached out to a couple people here to share their experience, but if you also want to share at the end, feel free to. But yeah, with that, we can get started. As always, the recording will be available later. If you're already on this call, you'll get it in your email once it's posted. And yeah, questions are welcome at any time. Feel free to raise your hand, interrupt me, put it in the chat, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Yeah, so for the icebreaking news today, I wanted to look at this Anthropic Economic Index that Anthropic just posted. For context, Anthropic is the creator of Claude, which is a large language model, and it's actually the large language model that powers Flint. So let me actually just share my other tab here. Um, oh, I can also put this in the chat in case anyone wants to play around with it. But it's pretty interesting. They took a lot of the data on like how people are using their model and like what sort of like backgrounds they're coming from, what sort of use cases they're using it for, and then really visualized it. So they have like it's mostly US, I think, and they said that global usage is coming soon. But you can see like for each of the states, for example, if we look at like New York or something, you can see the breakdown of using Claude. And yeah, I guess like to no surprise, a lot of it's like computer and mathematical stuff. Um, like a lot of computer science people are using it to generate some code and all that good stuff. But also the next one, in a lot of the states that I saw at least, the next section is educational instruction and library. And so, and yeah, that is also really cool that a lot of people are using Claude for education. And there's also this section for like life, physical, and social sciences. So yeah, I just thought like this might be a cool thing to share with you all in terms of visualizations and kind of seeing how people are using it. But yeah, they also have like the option to explore by jobs. Yeah, just like cool data. If anyone has any thoughts about it, feel free to speak up. But if not, I'll like move on to the next section.
I have a
Well,
random comment. Hi to
yeah,
chat.
go ahead.
It's interesting that Claude, even though it's being used by Flint and other educational settings, doesn't allow itself to be used by under 18, as far as I know. That's a random comment. It's not even a question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think also like ChatGPT is kind of also like that, unless you're on like specific plans or something. Or
So
actually, I don't even.
they're 13 now. That's what's interesting is like Gemini opened themselves up to like every age in schools. It's an interesting, I mean, obviously they're protecting themselves from having to deal with some of the laws, probably, but you're leveraging it with an API, I assume, as opposed to it being a regular customer. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's just a random comment. Let's talk science. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I think it is interesting because each of the different large language model providers is kind of taking on a very different, I guess, philosophy with their companies. From what we've seen, Claude is like very almost like protective and yeah, I guess protective is a good word of their users in a way. So they seem to be like very caring about like the way that the model acts and like who is using it. So that's also why we like it, honestly. Um, but yeah, so far it's also just been like the one that follows the rules the best in Flint. So that's also great. Cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll go ahead and dive into the science features that might be useful in Flint for you all to use in your activities. Kind of just like a bunch of pictures here, but yeah, first of all, like you can upload content into Flint. Um, this is super helpful for making sure that the activity has like context on what it is that you're teaching students, both specific subject matter and like also like the reading level that students are at and all that. Um, yeah, and then Flint also has like built-in math accuracy because Flint uses a calculator that we've built into it rather than just using the language model to understand numbers. And there's equation input and generation. And also, if you haven't seen this yet, Flint's documents can also now generate equations. This was something kind of new that we added a long time coming, but yeah, now if you want to create like worksheets or documents in Flint, it can also generate equations for you in there. Um, there's a code editor. You can do graphs and visualizations. I'll show you a couple of examples of those. And then also image processing. So a popular use case in problem solving that we've seen so far is students take a picture of their work and then send it to Flint, and then Flint can kind of read it and see and give them feedback. But yeah, really quickly to show an example of the graphs. They do look a bit different from like a year ago. If you all were playing around with graphs then. But yeah, here I asked Flint to like generate some rabbit population data over 10 years before and after introduction of some coyotes. So it was able to do that. And even like kind of knew that the like population should stabilize and everything. So that was pretty cool. And then I also asked it to like create data showing how like camouflage affects lizard color frequency in a desert environment. And it was able to do that too, where it's showing like mostly brown slash tan lizards. And then also like, of course, you can always input your own data. I just like put in like a very simple set of numbers here over the years with different groups, and it automatically knew to create like a bar chart with the 3 sections for each year. Yeah, and made that for me as well. So there's a lot of different things that you could have Flint visualize for you. So that might be kind of interesting, like students putting in their like lab data or something and having Flint help them generate visualizations and understand those visualizations. Okay, and then final slide here, I think. If you're using Flint for research, Flint has access to the internet, so it can search the web for you. It can find resources. I would still say like be careful with this one because AI still will sometimes hallucinate links. So if it's like suggesting resources to you or to students, just let them know like you want to double check that the link is real. And if not, you can always like put in a Google search for like term that Flint is giving you or the resource that it might be suggesting. Yeah, and then whenever Flint does have like resources that it's referring to, it will cite them in the text. So that's what these like blue numbers are in case you've ever seen those. And then you can always click on the link that's included there or the resource that's included there and open that to view. And then the last thing here is the whiteboard. Yeah, students can paste in images, they can draw on top of diagrams that you provide. They can also just like draw their own things in general with the whiteboard. So that is also very helpful. Cool. Any questions about the features in Flint? Okay, I forgot that I added one more. So this is also something that's kind of new. So if you're still like getting started with Flint for the school year, maybe you haven't seen this yet, but for facilitating Flint in person, we created this new needs attention feature. So it will basically highlight live which students might need your help based on their conversations. So it kind of looks for students that are like struggling with the concept or not engaging properly with the activity, where maybe some intervention from you as a person can help. Yeah, so because when we were observing classrooms, we saw a lot of teachers like, having students use Flint, but then also still like floating around the room and facilitating. So we wanted to create this feature where it was easier for the teachers to figure out like which students to go to rather than trying to like float and like trying to read their conversations and like figure that out. But yeah, just might be helpful to you. This is available on the activity overview pages. Yeah, and Kyle is asking, can it read graphs or equations in a PDF? Usually, yes. I will say that if your PDF is like really lengthy, then it might not be able to read like every single graph. So in that kind of case, it might be better to like take a screenshot of the graph and put it in, or try and like reduce your PDF down to just like a couple pages. So sometimes I do that. I'll like just take a screenshot of every page and paste that in. Um, but yes, I technically yes. For most cases. The issue there is just usually if the PDF is super long, then we have to summarize it for the AI, and then a lot of the details in the graph get lost through the summary. So still something that AI is working on to like be able to look super closely at like large content. But yeah, good question. Hey, nice. So I'll run through the activity examples. For a summary again, chats and Flint are kind of the conversations that you can have one-on-one with our AI, kind of when like Flint is acting as your teaching assistant, maybe helping you generate material, content questions, whatever it may be. Whereas activities are kind of these chat bots that you're designing for your students. And so these are the customized experiences that you can create for students. And some of these might be, data visualization chats. You can have them have reflections on labs, hypotheses, projects, whatever it may be. Flint loves to chat with people, so and we'll do so almost to no end. So sometimes I've had teachers like say, yeah, like my students like really didn't know when to end it. But good for like getting a lot of thoughts out of students, especially ones who might be a bit hesitant to share. Yeah, problem solving practice, really good at going step by step through different questions with students. Role plays with subject matter experts or even like concepts. I'll show you an example later where I thought it was really interesting and did not expect that. Yeah, quick knowledge checks. I know a lot of people are using Flint as like warm-ups or bell ringers. And then research, because it can search the web and find resources for you, tutoring and test prep, and also various projects. So yeah, the links there are links to different templates that I found in the public library that might be interesting. Let me actually share these slides with you all. Right. You'll also get it in your email after, so in case. Okay. Awesome. Okay. But yeah, some of the specific ones that I found were this DNA and genetics test prep activity. And oh yes, hold on. Let me show you all this first. For context, this is kind of what it looks like when you find a activity in the public library. And each activity in the public library is free for you to duplicate. And then once you duplicate it to your workspace, you can edit it, you can add to it. Of course, I suggest that you try it out first. And then it's like something ready to use for you in your classroom. And yeah, in the public library, we have all of these different sections. So you can search for science, you can search for any like subcategories in science as well. Yeah, and you can find it in your Flint page on the left-hand side where it says public library, kind of near the bottom. Okay. Right. So some of the interesting ones that I saw were like for test prep, like this one was like for DNA and genetics. I think the person like uploaded some information about the test and like really just like gave students more problem solving practice. This one was like helping students understand the periodic table and reactivity patterns. So that was also pretty cool. But like kind of from the role play aspect of like being a detective, I've seen that this is like a very popular kind of scenario that Flint likes to create. This one was a genetic enhancement challenge from Iram, who is one of our FIEs. Yeah, she created a scenario where the student had to act as a scientist and address a global issue through enhancing a specific organism, which was interesting. Yeah, and then this one was a meiosis process interview where the AI acted as a chromosome, and then the students could ask about the process of how chromosomes move during meiosis. Yeah, two more, I think. This one was a project where the students were creating a video advertisement, and they had to research a specific biome and ecosystem and habitat for their country of birth, and then create a 2-minute video, which Flint kind of assisted in the process for. Unfortunately, Flint can't create videos yet, but that could be really cool in the future. And then the final one here, I believe it's the final one, is a Shark Tank edition, like business brainstorming session with students, where the students are like creating business ideas aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then I think Flint is acting as like a Shark Tank person and kind of critiquing them with that. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm thinking as I'm watching this, like, oh, I can go find that one and I should search. I have two questions. One, can you share the links to these directly? I don't think you're doing that currently. Maybe you are. But also, well, my second question is there a way for Flint to highlight a curated list or a best of list rather than just wading through the sea of whatever anyone shares? Because right now, really what I look for is how many sessions have been created, but that doesn't mean it's good. It just means people are finding it or someone's
Yeah.
that would be a really cool feature, is like, this is something that you really want to check out.
Yeah. Wait, actually, our team has had some ideas around like maybe teachers should be able to like upvote different activities that they've tried, or even like leave comments on the activities in the public library, so then you can see like almost like reviews in a way of like which ones have worked really well or like what they did to like make it even better, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, just anything like that. And
Yeah.
another, here's just a random one. Sorry again. If there were
Mhm.
folders, like I'd love to be able to organize my own. Like I'm my own stuff, and I'm starting to think about like, should I make activities a certain color so I can remember how they relate to each other versus just picking a color randomly. But I would love to be able to organize things so that they make more sense to me personally. Sorry for just random spew, but sometimes that happens.
Yeah. You're good. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, if you made like all of the like tutoring ones like red, and then the quizzes like a different color, and like role plays a different color, that could be really awesome. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Some new features to pick through. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. And Marissa was saying, how can I access the activities in the public library? Yeah, so if you're on your homepage in Flint, if you go to the bottom left here, you should see an option for public library and school library. School library is essentially activities that have been shared within your school only, but the public library, depending on your school, should have a lot more activities in it. And if you just click on that, you should get there. I also posted the link to the public library in the chat there, which should bring you to the public library with you already signed in. But yeah, this is where you can like scroll through everything. There's a lot of different things. Yeah, which is also where the filters might come in handy. Oh, and Jeff, I didn't link the chats or the links to the specific activities in the slides yet, which I can add. But you can also, I'm pretty sure it should work if you just like type in some of the keywords that I put in Shark Tank.
I found one of them that way. That totally did work. I just was like, this would be nice to just go boom and you found them real quick.
Yeah. I can add them. Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's come back to this tab. Yeah, so now I'd love to walk you through some like actual activity creation and kind of show you what that process looks like. So actually, I will go back to my Flint tab. And I'm scrolling down here to the create an activity section. I'm actually going to pick this give problem solving practice shortcut. And then usually, as you can see, what happens here is Sparky actually, will start a conversation with me where it's asking for the specific details that it needs to create an activity that's suitable for my students. So I will paste in this prompt where I want it to, oh, stop that really quick because I forgot to add the attachment. Yeah, so here I'm adding in a screenshot, which I've uploaded previously, so it's already here, but it's a screenshot of some problems that where students would have to create free body diagrams. And so I am going to send those two together, where I'm asking it to work through these problems that I'm uploading with students one by one. And I'm giving it the context of students are in the 10th grade and also the prompt to make it an interesting role-play conversation. So now it's saying like, let me look closely. And when you see that, that's like a good sign. That means that Flint is looking more specifically at the image or the PDF that you've uploaded. And basically here it's like seeing that there's like a lot of details. So it's looking more close at the actual screenshot here. Yeah, so it says like I can see these are physics, force, and motion problems. Let me create an engaging role-play activity where I work through these scenarios with students one by one. And now it's saying, let me make changes. Oh, and in here you can see that it's actually written a lot of the prompts for me, which is one of the great things about Flint. You don't have to be a prompt writer or like go to the trouble of writing all these prompts. Flint will generate a lot of those for you. And what we've seen is AI is actually really good at prompting other AI. So we've been leveraging that to the full extent. Yeah, so yeah, it's using the detective theme and doing a step-by-step approach with interactive guidance. And then it's including the image as reference material, though I don't know if it included in the initial prompt. Sometimes it forgets that. So yeah, let me put in one more prompt and then we'll double check that. But essentially, I'm also going to ask it to grade students in a similar way as the AP exam would. And I'm uploading this. Once it loads, I can click on it. There we go. Okay, so I'm uploading this link, which has the AP scoring guidelines, which has like different examples than I guess this is a force diagram example, but it has like a bunch of different examples. So what Flint is going to do is actually take a lot of the like concepts and the style of grading and apply that to this activity, not those like specific grading structures. And then yeah, so now it's like creating a detailed rubric with specific point allocations, which kind of works. Flint will still just give students like one grade overall, but it can give them feedback on specific things. So here it's like looking now for, course identification and labeling, proper diagram requirements, multi-step work, clear explanations, and an emphasis to show all work and reasoning. Yeah, which should be helpful as students try to like practice these in preparation for the exam. Yes. So then from here, as you've like gone back and forth with Flint, given it some feedback, what you can do on the right-hand side is simulate the session. So you can either try like an automated simulation. Like here, if I select developing, let's say, we can kind of look at a student's developing response. One thing to note here is that Flint's preview here is just text-based, so it won't like, I think it can generate images in here, but usually it won't be like, oh, yeah, as you can see here, but it won't be like having the students like create an image and like draw on it and stuff. So that would be something that I would suggest doing in the manual preview. Yeah, I will just reset that for now so that we can see the manual preview. So instead of clicking the simulate here, I'm clicking the start a session manually underneath it. And then this is what I always suggest to teachers, like try out the preview manually at least once, because sometimes, you know, you understand the student mentality better than like an automated Flint does. And so if you can like pretend to be a student, try it out, that's usually like the best indicator of how it's going to respond. So yeah, so here's like where I would do that. Payal is asking, how can we make sure it's consistent? Sometimes it gives different feedback for the same work. Yeah, that's true. I think it's still a part of like how AI is kind of indeterministic, but I think the more specific you can be with your guidelines on how to give feedback and like what sorts of feedback that you want it to give students, the more consistent it will be. It's kind of like if you just like told a teaching assistant like go give students feedback, they might like address each problem very differently. But if you gave it like, you know, a step-by-step rubric or like very specific guidelines, then it can like give more specific and pointed feedback to each student, and in that way it should be more consistent across the board. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the solutions in Flint is just give it more context. You'll see that's like a common theme of my suggestions. But yeah, good question though. Okay, yes. So one more thing I'm going to add to this one, since it doesn't show it in the initial message, I'm going to ask it to show the questions in the initial message for students to take screenshots from and notate on using the whiteboard. I'm also going to add like let students know that they can do that. Sometimes it's good to like include the prompting into the messages from Flint for the students in a way. So like, for example, like using contrasting colors on the whiteboard is important, and like, you know, like even letting students know that they like have access to the whiteboard could be like important to do, especially if it's like one of your first couple activities with Flint, and you can like have that baked into the message itself. So yeah. Oh, I might need to tell it to like actually include the image, but yeah, that's kind of the concept there. Yeah, any questions about this activity? I have like one more process example to show you all. If anything comes up in your mind later, feel free to throw it in the chat and I can always address it. Oh yeah, Felice is asking, how do students access the whiteboard? That is a very good question. So in the chat bar, this is kind of, oh, there we go. This is kind of consistent across all chats and activities in Flint. The whiteboard is under this plus icon, so they can add a document, whiteboard, code, link, equation into Flint. So if I click on this, this will open. This will open the whiteboard where they can like draw, and they can also like paste screenshots into here and like add their own notations on top. Yeah. Oh, and then while I'm here, I'll also show you all what the code looks like. Pretty basic code editor. Students can pick between like a bunch of different languages that are included in Flint. Yeah, the default one is Java. Yeah, and then this is the equation input, which also can now be like popped out so that students can input equations while also looking at different problems on the side. And yeah, the document in case this is also helpful. Students can like create a document and start writing something. And then that can then be like printed, exported to Google Drive, or downloaded as a Microsoft Word doc. And yeah, students can go like back and forth with Flint and ask it for feedback on anything that they're writing, which might be especially good for reflections if you want students to turn in like a final written draft of something. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, right, once you're happy with the activity, just make sure you click create activity. If you don't create it, Flint doesn't save any of this like drafting process yet. This is something that we want to add eventually. But yeah, make sure you create it, even if you're like not fully done editing it. You can always go back in and edit it more. But if you haven't created it and like your computer shuts down or you close tab, then you'll lose all of your progress. So yeah, just make sure that you do that. And then once you're ready to share it with students, the main thing to do here is like copy the link and send it to them. But you can also add it to one of your groups. Like, I don't, oh, I do have an AP Physics test one. So yeah, I can add it there. Adding it to the group just kind of consolidates all of the activities for your students. And there's also group analytics that you can look at that summarizes how students are doing across different activities. So yeah, also good for you organization and analysis wise. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Hi, do you mind sharing some examples of the group analytics you mentioned and which types of I don't know, information data it can give you?
Yeah, can do. So let me go to, I think I need to find a group that I've actually used more sessions with. I think this one should be good. Okay. So in the group page, under the three dots, you can find the button that says View Analytics. And so this will bring you to the group analytics. By default, on the right-hand side here, it kind of like shows you all of the student strengths and areas of improvement across different activities. It'll also show you any inappropriate messages that students have been sending. Yeah, and also metrics on usage. Yeah, so these are kind of like the more general analytics. You can kind of look at like usage over time. That might just be like for fun, honestly. But I think the more important part here is on the left-hand side. You can ask Sparky questions about how the students are doing and what like things they're struggling with, what sort of misconceptions you see. Those are kind of the suggestions that we have here. But you can also ask it to be like, you can also ask it something like, summarize the specific gaps in learning that I should be addressing based on like the activities, maybe like the last three activities or the last five activities. And then it can like summarize based on like all of the student sessions. It'll look at all of them and then give you a overview of what you might want to be addressing or want to be looking at. Um, yeah, it's hard to say like exactly what like the limits of what it's looking at should be, but that's kind of the gist. It has access to all of the student sessions. You can ask it for um, feedback on those student sessions or summaries of how students are doing. And then, yeah, I can look at it and give you some advice, and you can even use it as a brainstorming partner in a way.
Okay, another question I have is I'm going to relate it to another ed tech that I used to use. It was Edpuzzle, where you can assign videos and write questions or use other people's questions, and it would auto mark those questions if they were the type of questions that could be auto marked, and then some of the questions that are long answer questions or written questions, then you would mark those parts. I was wondering, and it would also give me the whole class as a list and show how they did on that assessment. I was wondering, is there a way to do something like that with Flint
Mm.
and for me to ask you questions about, okay, this is the formative, so if I gave it a formative, and is it able to give me like an auto marking the formative as well as give me analytics about what was happening in the conversations as they were doing the formative and what are the trends in the answers they were giving?
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely create activities that are a bit quiz-like in structure, with either set questions that you've uploaded or questions that Flint generates as it goes. Um, yeah, I will just say like note to students that Flint isn't perfect. It might still like mark things wrong when they think it's right. So like they should come to you if anything like that shows up. But you can definitely put in like a quiz into Flint, have it go through the questions one by one with students. I've even had teachers like create activities that are super strict where it doesn't like give them any feedback. It just like accepts their answer and then at the end gives them a grade. So you can make it like super like strictly quiz like, where it's also like able to auto mark it for you. Yeah, and then at the end, what you'll see is, let me see if I can find an example. In the session page, I have made so many activities recently. This one, okay. In the activity overview page, you should see all of the students' sessions, and then all of the grades will pop up on the right-hand side here, which you can like change the grading scale as you need it to be. Like if it's like from like 0 to 20 or like, yeah, A through F, 1 through 7, whatever works best for your classroom. Yeah, cool. And then Christy's asking, oh,
Sorry, one last thing about that. Would
yeah.
I have to, can I like populate a class through, I don't know, connection to say Google Classroom or something like that? Or would I have to have the kids click on the activity for them to show up in this session?
Yeah, we don't have any like embedding in Google Classroom yet. So I think the best way to do it would be to create an assignment in Google Classroom, or just like somehow share the link with students and then have them go to the link and start using it. Yeah.
Sorry to ask so many questions.
No, you're good. You're good. This is really good. Yeah, okay. So, and then Kriti was saying, is there an example of how Flint helps students build their knowledge skills without giving out answers in sciences? Specific activity in the library you could point to? I think there's a lot of different activities in the library that might address this, but I think in general, what you need to do is just like, tell students or tell Flint not to give the students the answers. Flint is like too helpful sometimes. So it might be like not realizing that it's giving students answers. It thinks it's just like giving them more guidance. So sometimes what I do is just like I tell it fully, just don't give any guidance first, like to bring it almost like down to like a base level of like not much. And then I build up from there. So then I say like, okay, like you can give students like the next hint for like the step of a process in this problem solving activity, or like, yeah, anything like that. And sometimes also when you like tell it to give no guidance, its no guidance level is like the perfect amount of guidance. So I think it's like view is a bit skewed since like AI is literally built to like help people with their questions and like generate information for them. So we're kind of like fighting against its like natural tendencies in a way. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so I know we're like, I have like a bunch of different share outs that I want to get to, so I want to like save time for those. So I'm going to really quickly run through this other process example, and show you all. Actually, wait, I have it already done here. Okay, so essentially, another way to create activities other than like doing it in this group is kind of through a chat. From what I've seen, like if you're not like super sure what it is that you want your students to create in Flint, if you're having like a super lengthy conversation in the builder chat, sometimes it'll like reach the context window limit, and then it like starts forgetting some of like the initial things that you did. So what I've been suggesting to teachers there is like, export the chat, put it into a new one, and like start over, which is kind of like a weird process to think through. So what I would also suggest doing is actually using a chat to brainstorm. And then at the end, if it does create something that you like, you can ask it to create a document with all of the activity settings, because it has context about what activities are and how they set up. So what you can do there is just like start a chat with like help me with anything, or even just like start messaging at the bottom of the homepage here. And this is this one? Okay, yeah, is the example that I created yesterday. Basically, I asked it, can you help me brainstorm some Flint activities to help my fourth graders understand how the interconnectedness within ecosystems contributes to the survival of living things? Like a very broad kind of topic, right? So I wasn't really sure like what specifically an activity from this would look like. So I'm asking Sparky to help me brainstorm here. Yeah, and so here it says like sure. And it created a bunch of different options like a food web detective, ecosystem disruption scenarios, with like what if situations, animal adaptations interview, and then even some like hands-on activities. Yeah, and then from those I like picked one. I said I like this one. And I even gave it like some additional feedback on like why I like this one. Yeah, and then so it was able to like start kind of designing this activity. And of course you can use chats for like lesson planning generally, but you can even use it to like plan Flint activities, which is what I'm trying to get at here. So yeah, at the end, I just said like, can you put the settings for this activity into a document? And it was able to create those where it knows like, you know, to write an initial message. Okay, here we go. Where it knows to write an initial message, add in the scenarios, any guiding questions, assessment criteria, and a bunch of the activity settings are also input here. And then I just also went ahead and said like, make your responses much shorter to be suitable for my fourth graders. So then it was able to adapt that document as well. Yeah, and then all you would need to do here is you can like download the document or even just like copy the text to your clipboard and then paste that into a new activity chat. So then from here you can like go to the build an activity section and create an activity directly. Yeah, I think eventually we'll want to like just make it a one button click kind of thing from chats to activities. But this is like what I would suggest for if you're trying to kind of use Flint for some brainstorming first and then wanting to bring it into an activity. Awesome. Cool. So, oh yes, and then one last thing, activities don't have to be student facing. You can also create activities for yourself or other teachers. I know a lot of schools have created like lesson planning tools for like specific to their school that have like their philosophies on like how they want AI to be integrated or how they want teachers to be like planning lessons in a way. Because sometimes there's like specific structures or methodologies that teachers at different schools are using. But yeah, you can also like create, you know, writing partners, grading partners for yourself, image generations, and more. I also use these in my work sometimes. But yeah, okay. So yes, I want to leave time for the share out. I've asked a bunch of educators for some of their feedback and ideas. Yeah, first of which is Laura Cross from Kincaid School. If you want to go ahead and start, Laura, the stage is yours.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me? Am I good?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, so I am from the Kincaid School in Houston. I teach physics and astronomy for 11th and 12th graders. It's a private school that's been using Flint for a long time. And across both middle and upper school, we do not use AI with our lower school students. I've done a lot of different things with Flint over the years, so I'm kind of actually being guided by what Lulu has been talking about and what I wanted to show you. So one comment about like if you are trying to make like an activity where where Sparky is going to tutor a student through doing some problems. I do this for all of my homework assignments. Each homework assignment has a separate activity and they're basically the same thing, like tutor the students or answer their questions about this assignment. So I feed in the problems, my own solutions, so it's going to approach it the same way that we teach it. And then also the grading rubric that we would use. You know, we won't just take grades straight off of Flint, but it would help the students to say, oh, this is the point that I am missing. And so giving all of that information is helpful to Flint. A phrase that I have found, by the way, that helps in the over helpfulness kind of thing, I ask it to be a Socratic tutor. And it seems to understand that pretty well. When I say a Socratic tutor that does not give the answers, it actually seems to get that, which is something that it has gotten better at over time. When I first started, it was hard to avoid giving the answers, but now I can get it to avoid giving the answers. Lulu, do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, yeah, you should.
Okay, hang on just a second. So I'm going to show you in the middle of an assignment that we did recently. This, by the way, somebody was asking about graphs, and this assignment did have to sorry, it's like trying to open all sorts of things here. No, cancel that. I don't know. It's being weird. Okay, I'm not just going to show you that. I'm not going to sit here wasting our time on that. But it was able to read a student's graph and understand what they had graphed. It was able to identify the slope and the y-intercept from that graph that the student had produced, because she understood the beginning of the problem, but not the end. And like, she was having a really, really hard time understanding how to solve for a certain quantity. She didn't know what numbers to plug in. And it really guided her through it. And I was actually really impressed with, it helped her persist until she actually understood, oh, this is why I need to substitute this number for Y. And then she was able to finish the problem. It was a really good experience, and the students definitely like having those tutors there. I'm also getting more into image generation with Flint. We had a middle school teacher last year who she was doing a lesson on habitats and how species adapt to fit their habitats. The students had to create an imaginary animal that lived in a certain habitat and that had features that would help it to survive. And they had to draw a picture, like they colored it in, and then they had to point out the features. She fed each image into Flint. Flint made a photorealistic version of the image, which was pretty cool. And then it also did its own analysis of like, oh, I see that this animal has red spikes. Oh, it's probably poisonous to anything that's trying to eat it. And so it was like actually analyzing it. We were jokingly calling it Flint Darwin. But anyway, it was like, and the kids were just so amazed that it was like explaining their own animals back to them. It was great. And then one other one that I've done recently, Lulu was mentioning like some role playing kind of things. We had a panel discussion with Galileo, Copernicus, and Ptolemy about their understanding of the solar system and geocentric versus heliocentric, and why did they think these things. And the students had to interview them and come to a conclusion based on the evidence they were given. And so that was a fun activity. They really enjoyed that. There was like, okay, yes, this is better than reading a textbook account of what those scientists did. They enjoyed interacting with them. And of course, Flint is giving them personalities like, how can you say such a thing, Tommy? Being all exciting about it. So sorry about, there's my bell. But in any case, they were making a lot of progress with different applications that are not just research or, answering questions and stuff like that. I'm impressed with where we're going.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I feel like every time I hear from you or talk to you, I hear of so many new examples and exciting things that are happening. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. And I won't keep you too long because I know you have to get to a class.
Yes, you heard my bell, so I'm gonna. Was that a question for me, Jeff? I can take that if it's.
Well,
for me.
it's related to you. I was going to say another cool feature I just thought of while I was sitting here is I want to be able to search for Laura and see her specific, like you should be able to search by user.
Mhm.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Because I want to find your stuff easily.
I'll put my email address in the chat and I can help you find stuff.
Yeah, I think there might be a way for you all to see her profile, honestly, and then I think like all of that would be visible, I think. But then Laura would need to like send the link to her profile.
Yeah, so I just sent you my email address and then we can,
Yeah.
I can help you out with the links.
Yeah, that might be easier for now, but good suggestion, Jeff.
Yeah, here's also one more suggestion which I would like to chip in. So if you basically go to the public library page, you can actually search Laura's name and Lara's name, and it will pop up all the activities that are created by someone named Lara. So that is an existing feature. You can try it out.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it does work. Yeah, if I put in your full name, it'll have like I don't know if you have more than 2, but 2 are showing up in the public library.
Yeah, so I definitely, those were some practice ones that I was doing another time. So I may need to make my other ones more public.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ours tend to live way inside multiple levels of things.
Yeah, no worries.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I think the other person that I had asked Shara who was able to respond in time was Adam. If you want to share some of your experience using Flint so far.
Hi, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface compared to what you've said and what Laura said. I've mainly used it as an assistant so far. Let me just give my background. I'm a high school biology teacher and general science teacher. I generally teach the IB curriculum, and I also use it for something called the personal project, if you guys know what that is. So I generally used it as an optional assistant that the kids could use, and then I like to spy on what the kids' prompts are and finding out what the general trends are, the conversations they're having, and that gives me an idea of where they need help. And it's been good for doing some of the I would say the lower level grunt work on, say, lab design. So that by the time the kids come to me with their lab ideas, some of the early ideas are vetted out before they get to me. And so I'll give an example. One of my students, she gave me one of the research questions she was considering, and it said to her, well, that part of it will work, but that part of it won't work because the yeast can't use that as a substrate for respiration. So that allowed her to not waste time with that particular part of the research question and adapt it to a viable research question. So by the time the kid came to me, then I can give more feedback on that and talk about its viability. I've used it as an exam prep option that the kids can use for revising for exams, where I gave it the exam and said, don't give it the answers to this exam, but make related questions and guide the students to how develop the skills to be able to do well in that exam. But I would say the place where I've used it most is actually not in science. It's in the personal project, which is a project where students they decide with the supervisor a certain passion they have. So it's like a passion project, but they have a report that they have to make, and they after deciding on what they want to learn about, they decide what product they want to make, and they have to make a success criteria for that product. They have to make timelines and stuff like that for that product, and it's been really helpful there because not many other teachers have the training to be able to help students with this. And there's only one of me, and there's 115 of them. So there's not enough experienced teachers in this to be able to help the kids in this. And it's really helped the the kids who may not have as experienced supervisors, again, help with that grunt work so that by the time the students see us, we, one, have seen the conversations they're having with Flint, so we can get a general idea of where their thinking has gone, but we also, it helps us prepare for those sessions we have with the kid, like the discussions we have with the kids, so that we know where their thinking has gone already. And it allows us to be a lot more helpful to the students. And I've been surprised with its ability to see with logistics. So, for example, one of the kids had this project they had in mind, and I'd already told Flint that the students only have 4 months to get this project done, and it alerted me that this student is doing a project that just won't be viable in that 4 months. I had no idea it even had that functionality. It had something similar happened with the design tech teacher, where it told her that one of the students was trying to make I don't know, some kind of dish that would be possible within the hour session, that they would have to actually make it. So yeah, that logistical side was really interesting. And again, I'm still learning, and I'm going to go from a place where it's optional to a place where it's something that the students have to do, and I expect to see all the students doing it. But one of the issues we're having at my school at the moment is that students just want answers. They just want straight to the answer rather than something that guides them. So they sometimes just go straight to ChatGPT to just tell them things rather than being guided and having to think for themselves. And that's been the difficult thing, is trying to get them to use Flint to guide them to where they need to be, and to use those critical thinking skills, those creative thinking skills, and so on, rather than just be given the answer. And yeah, that's something I think that we're still trying to figure out.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I mean, you said that you didn't have much to share, but I think that was actually a lot to share. It's actually really good to hear that the like logistics side of things, like Flint's also doing really well at. I think I remember a while back, maybe it's because like we've updated the models or like updated more context around it, but it would be very like optimistic with how much students could get done. So I'm glad that you're finding it like more accurate in that way. And on the project end also actually, someone had emailed me asking specifically for this session, like about using Flint for reflection, especially with lower school students. So it's really cool to hear like how on your end you're using it for like a lot of the like beginning stages, and then they're also thinking about like the ending stages of like after the project's done, like how can they draw more of that like thinking, as you were talking about, out of students and really like have a conversation with Flint. Yeah, I think these are like all super great use cases for activities. So yeah.
I mean, it was super useful for me to read through their conversations, because it gives me an understanding of the kids' understanding. And one of the cases was with something called the extended essay. One of the students was having problems with statistical tests, and I actually didn't expect Flint to actually be very good with that, to help them with which statistical tests would be appropriate for the data set she had and what she was trying to achieve. And I was quite impressed. It was actually quite helpful, and it did actually come up with the correct statistical test. But at the same time, you definitely still need the teacher there. It doesn't give everything. There are, I won't say knowledge mistakes as much, but there are things that it just needs the teacher there. It doesn't give the whole picture, and the teacher, I think, still needs to be there, because I did do a workshop with the other teachers, and they were like, well, what do we do then? If Flint can do all of this, what's our part to play? And I said, well, it doesn't do everything, and it still needs you, and sometimes it makes mistakes. Even when I try to give it the rubrics from the IB, it still comes up with mistakes, like using old guides, old materials that are no longer relevant, things like that. So yeah, it's very useful. way more useful than I expected, but and a lot more teachers who were skeptical before are starting to give it a go. And again, like I feel like I'm only just scratched the surface.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I would say like, as teachers, you all are still like experts on the students at least. Like you've built those personal relationships, you understand how each of them learns, and like certain things that they struggle with. So yeah, I think the role of the teacher may change more in the classroom, especially if you're using Flint. But I think like honestly, you'll be like more important than ever because you're really the one who's like, parsing through all of this like interaction with AI, to really dig deeper into like what it is that each student needs in their learning process. But yeah, it looks like Kelly had a question, maybe for you, maybe for me.
Yeah, it's for Adam. Thank you so much for sharing. My question is, my students also just want to get the right answer. They don't want to think through, it's just something that I think I'm always challenged by. So Adam, I was wondering, how do you dissuade students from just going to ChatGPT while they're working on Flint? Like, how do you, I don't know, you said that it was still a challenge, but I was just wondering how you deal with that. I just need advice on how to do it in my own classroom.
Well, I don't think I fully have. I mean, I've tried to give kids the analogy of I said it's the equivalent of going to ChatGPT versus using Flint would be like the equivalent of wearing a muscle suit versus going to the gym and actually lifting the weights. One's the appearance of learning, and one's actually going through the process where you actually learn and you actually become stronger. And that they going straight to ChatGPT is not going to develop those skills that they're going to need for life and for the next stages, either university or for the diploma program. So it's trying to convince them that that's in their best interests. Some kids, they take to that and they think, okay, that's good, and some kids don't. But I find generally the more the student already knows and the better their critical thinking skills are, the better use they have of Flint. And another thing I noticed was the more they treat it like a person, the more they got out of it as well. I said, talk to it like a person. Don't talk to it like a robot. And just keep giving it context, because sometimes their first prompt answers not what they want, and oh, this is rubbish. It's like, well, you haven't given it any context. It doesn't know what you're talking about. So give it the context and it'll give you better answers. Whereas if you just give it a very vague, one sentence question, that's why you're going to get not very much back from Flint.
Yeah, thank you. That's so helpful. I hadn't thought about that, telling kids to talk to it like a person. That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. I know we've gone a little bit over time, so I might just go ahead and wrap up. But if anyone has additional questions or comments that you want to share at the end, I do have some time after this meeting. So yeah, I can stay on a bit longer. But yeah, there was one more share out that I got from a teacher in written format. Shannon was describing to me like how she's been using Flint to create a practice quiz as a way to review for a test. And she like uploaded her notes, asked Flint to create a 10-question review. And then based on feedback, Flint asked them additional questions between 8 and 12, reviewing major concepts. And then, yeah, she said generally it did a good job of reviewing the concepts, providing feedback, and Flint provided an overall assessment of students' strengths and weaknesses. And then it also alerted her, I think, through the like needs attention feed to a few students who didn't take it seriously, and also to one student who used inappropriate languages. So yeah, I think she liked that part of it. But yeah, she also said that her students found it to be a helpful way to review the content. But yeah, okay, so these are kind of the structure of the next sessions, kind of subject to change. I know for a couple weeks now I've said that math is coming, but like our team has been building out a couple things. So I just want to make sure those are ready for the math session. But yeah, this is kind of like the schedule of Campfire's upcoming. I would say these specific dates might vary a bit. but it will happen like within the week of that date. Yeah, and then yeah, as always, all recordings will be posted at flintk12.com/webinars. But also anyone who has registered for this session will get it in their email directly. And here are the QR codes that I share as always. If you're already here, you probably don't have to scan the Campfire calendar one. You're probably already subscribed to it if you've joined a event here or an event before. But we do have our Instagram and our community. The Instagram is the one social media platform at Flint that is like more geared towards teachers. A lot of the stuff that we put out there is like administrator level, but we are trying to make like the Instagram more like teaching specific and more like pedagogy specific. And then the community is a forum, Q&A area mix kind of thing for teachers by teachers is what we're trying to do. So it's a great place to go if you join, and then if you have any questions or like feedback that you want on some ideas that you're trying out, that's a great place to share, and the members are getting to be more active in there. So they'll, like other educators, can share their thoughts on whatever it is that you have questions about. But yeah, our team is also pretty active in there. So if there's any like technical questions that we can answer, we'll also jump in. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. If you have any additional questions or comments, I'll be here. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so someone said, can we create a lab simulation such as titration process? Sorry, person payout. So something that ChatGPT is doing with the agents now is you can do stuff like that now. I mean, it's you have to pay a lot for it and stuff. So I was wondering, is that in the works for Flint to be able to create simulations like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I guess I saw their question and thought of it from like just like a conversational standpoint. I think there are some like limitations to how like specific into simulation Flint can go with it, I guess. We don't necessarily have like interactive graphs yet or like videos or anything, but these are like things that we increasingly want to build into Flint. It's just a matter of like, is the technology up to speed? Do we have access to it through an API kind of thing? But yeah, I do think like eventually we would want to like incorporate more interactive simulation stuff. But I think what you could do right now is like kind of have Flint be like a storyteller almost. You can give it like describe the lab process. It can like generate images, of course, for the students and graphs for them to analyze. So I think like more in the direction of simulating a lab, but not quite like the same experience that an actual hands-on lab would give.
So not something like Vet Simulator for now, but maybe
Yeah.
down the line at some point.
Yeah. That would be the goal. Yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead, Izzy. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you, Lulu. So my computer science class, we've been using Flint a lot, like for like trying to like go through after we do the lessons, like going through and seeing if we understand it and doing practice problems. But something I've seen in a lot of my classmates and like actually myself as well is it's like really dull. Like just going through like and scrolling down and just clicking like different things was just like not a whole lot of fun. So do you have any like ideas or like use cases you've seen for computer science that could make that kind of interaction more interesting?
Yeah. That's a good question. I feel like most of the things that I've seen have like gone around like role plays, where I think like I briefly shared my screen somewhere with like I think it was like a crisis management situation where it's like, you know, as a student, you're like trying to solve all these problems before like something bad happens. So you could like incorporate like that sort of terminology into it. I've seen like escape rooms also be one that is kind of interesting. As I mentioned, like Flint often defaults to like the detective one, which is kind of okay. But yeah, I think like anything along those lines could be cool. you can also give Flint like a personality in a way. So I've seen like, like talk like a pirate or ask it to be like a specific personality. Like I think there was one photography teacher that created an activity where he created this persona called Bruce. I think it might have been based on like an actual photographer, but he had like a very like blunt personality, like very straightforward. Um, so like the students really like talking to like Flint Bruce. So that like those could be some ideas. I can let you know if I think of anything else though. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I like the escape room a lot. I think I'll try and make that one.
Yeah, yeah. Like maybe the students have to like solve specific problems to get to different rooms or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Izzy. Great, awesome. Any other final questions? Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Okay, sorry, I'm talking a lot today.
You're
Um,
good.
so something that I was considering and trying to figure out is the possibility of using AI to evaluate collaboration skills. So
Mm,
what I was trying to think to possibly do is have like the microphone of um, the laptop or one of the laptops, or it could be maybe the phone of one of the students, and maybe an auto transcription of a group work or discussion the students are having.
mm,
And then if that gets uploaded, if Flint can pick that apart and then auto detect, I know this sounds ridiculous, but auto detect who's speaking and maybe give feedback on their collaboration skills according to a preset rubric. I know that sounds insane, but like I've always wanted to like evaluate some of these soft skills, but it's
mm,
always when we have to evaluate them, it's always been just the general walk around and we're hearing, and it's the general feel of what we're seeing. But I was wondering, is there a way you think you can use Flint to be able to actually do that in a recorded fashion, in a systematic fashion?
mm. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I would say that I don't think like Flint's text to speech or speech to text is like strong enough for that use case yet. I know some people have been trying to use it for like even meeting transcription and stuff, but it like doesn't have the ability to record for that long. But I do think I have seen tools out there where you can like after you've recorded it, it can like figure out like that there are different voices and it will like have like speaker one, speaker two, speaker three. And then what you could do is then like take the transcript that it generates from that and then put it into Flint and then have it evaluated based on a rubric. You could even like create an activity for yourself, kind of like I mentioned earlier. You can like in that activity creation process, give it the context of like what it is that you're trying to do, what you're going to upload, and what you want it to output for you. And then I think that could be one way to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so it's along those. Yeah, what you're saying is along those lines. So I was trying to find the software to do that, and it's expensive.
Mm.
So that's why I was
Oh, I see.
trying to find out if what
Yeah.
AI's got in. Sorry, what Flint's got in the pipeline. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some of those. I don't know how much you know about the IB and ATLs and things like that.
A
But
little.
so I've been trying to find a way that a lot of these kind of skills are things that are not very easily quantified and not very easily. Sorry, I think I've bored everybody.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
good.
not easily recorded, not easily quantifiable, not easily to show evidence that it happened and to give feedback to students. And part of
Hmm.
it's just time. Like I can't give individual feedback to every student about what I saw, or I can't record it and then come back to it and then read it and think, okay, student X should have done this, or student Y should have done that. You know,
Hmm.
there's some things it can do that with, such as some critical thinking skills it can do that. But it's just some of the other type of like things like collaboration or communication or right, some of the other ones. I've just been trying to think about how that can be done because the
Hmm.
school is asking us that we do these things in terms of record these and assess it. but
Mhm.
it's just so hard with all the other things we're trying to get data on and teaching and behavior management, all that stuff going on one time. I'm trying to find a way to systematize it and automate it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the tool that I use, at least that I'm thinking of, that has the different speakers is called Descript, kind of like description without the ION at the end.
Mhm.
Um, I do think our company pays for it. I'm not sure how much it is, and I'm not sure if they have like a free plan. I do think it's like a newer tool, so they might have a free plan right now, that might be like taken away later, unfortunately, kind of thing. But I do think this is like a really cool use case for us to build towards also. It's like not the first time that I've heard of people wanting to use AI, in schools for voice transcription, and like I think one of the things that Flint is missing right now is how like individual it is, which is good. That's like the whole thing that we're building towards, like individualized, personalized learning. But like, it is like very one-to-one only, and I think like group work in Flint is like a whole world for us to explore too. So this could be like a very good like first step towards that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that would be I think that the simplest one to get teachers on board would be just have something that has a marks book and
Mm.
that can be populated easily with a marks book. I think um,
Mm.
that would be nice. But I mean, there's ways to do it, like you said, that you give the link and then they do it that way.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, someone said to me that there was maybe a possibility of uploading class sets and making room with class sets. I don't know if but they said they heard it. They don't know if it's true.
Yeah. Could you explain a bit more what you mean by class sets? Sorry, I might not.
So say that you've got a certain class with certain kids,
Mhm.
and it will give you, say, a history of the activities and what grades they got. It just like, I don't know, I guess like Google Classroom in some ways.
Mm.
Uh,
I see. I guess that would be in the group analytics in a way. You could ask it for like a history of um the activities and like how the students did. I think you could even ask it to like generate like a table that has like all of that
yeah,
information.
yeah,
Yeah.
to make a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to get
Mhm.
going. It's lovely talking
Yeah.
to you, and hopefully talk to you
Yeah.
again. I'm going on an IB AI workshop in
Oh,
November,
okay.
and it would be interesting to see if anyone else is using Flint and seeing how they've used it as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, all right, and hopefully talk to you in the future as well. Because my school, it's one of the Cognita schools, and we're
Mm.
putting together a kind of trial of a study of
Mm.
the use of Flint and AI in general in the personal project. And so
Oh,
maybe I might come to you with some ask you for some ideas about how that can happen.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Reach out to me anytime. My email is just lulu@flink12.com. So
Mhm.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Good evening. It's 10:20 p.m. where I am. So all right.
Thank you so much for joining so late and sharing your ideas and asking so many good questions. Yeah, have a good night then.
Thank you too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.